All right, post week one outlook. Texans 0-1 to start the season. We've talked about it a lot. We talked about it on SNL. We talked about it in the locker room yesterday in the post game show. We talked about it today on the Texans Collective, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed to, subscribe in the description. It was pretty solid today. Very, very, very excited about the collab SNL with Sean Pendergast and Reginald Atatula. That was very, very fun. Although, damn Mike, the cord. I got a new cord, and I guess you just have to reset the whole damn thing. Whenever you switch the cord, even if it's an upgraded cord. Learn. Anyway, Texans lose to the Rams, and the question now is, and this is how I want to start this off here on the Localized Week 1 Outlook. My question is, do you feel worse about the Texans now than you did before? Do you feel worse about the Texans? Does 1 week change the way that you thought about the Texans? Because nobody feels better. Like, nobody with the rational brain, I think, feels better about the Texans. Some may feel the same. But do you feel worse about the Texans after what you saw? For me, it's about the same. I have them as a 10-11 win team. I have them as a defensive team. And I think they're going to be in a lot of close games, and they're going to have opportunities to win. And the offense is going to have to improve and overcome the deficiencies that have been well documented and we've discussed for a while. By the way, this video is brought to you by Sleeper and Hog Media. Shout out to Sleeper. I think I just hit I missed it because Caleb Williams did not have 220 yards. But you know what? I went higher. I should have gone lower, but it is what it is. Shout out to Sleeper. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. Millions of users have already joined. Live stats, real-time updates, visualization on all stats, everything. It's my scoring app now. And the higher lower game is my go-to. Go to Sleeper, download the app, get 100% match up to $100 when you use my promo code Locker. Shout out to Sleeper. So to answer the question about the Texans, whether I feel better or worse, I feel the same. I feel the exact same. Now, I do have a couple of stats, and it's a three-piece combo that's not great. But this is the reality of the situation with where the Texans are after 1 week in the fluid process and the emotional roller coaster that is the NFL. Stat number 1. The Texans are one of 2 teams that did not score a touchdown in week 1. The only other team that didn't score a touchdown was the Giants. So the Texans and Giants have something in common. Both of them will be looking to score their first touchdown in week 2 of the season. Something else the Texans did. They were the only team in the NFL to allow 14 points or less in a game and lose. The other 7 teams who did that, they won. That is 1/4 of the league that allowed 14 points or less. The other 7, they found ways to win. Offensive line stats. And this is kind of sad because I look at this stat and I say, you know what? That's not too bad. That's how bad the O-line stats have been. But the Texans, and this was Stutz posted this, it's Next Gen Stats. They allowed a QB pressure rate of 41.2% yesterday. That's the 7th worst in week 1. Would you take the 7th worst O-line in the league? Wouldn't be great, but maybe that's kind of where they are and where the Texans will be. Let's go to the super chat. Let's find out how the peeps are feeling. Austin Jack doing his thing. Shout out to Austin Jack.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Good evening to you, my friend, out there in Austin. I don't know if Austin's going to be joining us Friday at Spanky's, Sharpstown, Bel Air Boulevard, but hopefully you will. I can't wait to eat that grub. Can't wait to eat that grub. They make the dough every morning. They make the sauce every morning. They got the best happy hour. It's going to be a Friday happy hour. It's going to be before we get a Sunday off, Monday Night Football. Be out there at Spanky's. Join myself and Cody Stutz. It's going to be a good time. Cannot wait. We got some prizes. We got plenty for you. Lawson Piles on Z Soup. He says, feels like a solid Jet season lies ahead. Houston Collective show was great. Appreciate you, man, for coming through on the Houston Collective. Solid Jet season. That's not good. That means you missed the playoffs. I've had a decent amount of people say they now feel like the Texans could miss the playoffs. I do want to take a closer look at that, because the whole point of this, if you've been following along on the channel for the last 3 years, is we react on Monday, and then after Monday Night Football concludes, we take a look at the rest of the league and how the Texans stack up, what happened, and what the outlook is. And I do wonder if maybe your goals aren't completely lost, and I don't feel any worse about this team, but I do think the attention might need to shift when it comes to where we're looking. I'll explain that in just a sec, but I appreciate you, Lawson. Evan Mack with a 2-piece. He says, we're cooked, Landry, sell the team. Well, someone's trying to get Cal to sell the team. He saw that Mike Florio thing with old Kerry McNair. He's going hard at Cal, kind of desperate, kind of crazy that he hired Tony Busby too. Isn't that kind of weird? But that is some family drama I would want no part of. Evan also says every question needs to be about the O-line. You're talking about D'Amico's press conference tomorrow? I kind of think he's got to speak on coverage, although let's be honest, like nobody thinks that defense is the biggest problem, but Jalen Petrie, the snap count, and I'm going to pull up this snap count real quick. And I find this interesting where you have all this well-discussed linebacker depth, and the snap count looks like this on defense. And Adam Wexler was the one who tweeted out the snap counts. Adam Wexler over there at 790. But let's just look at these snap counts together on the post-week 1 edition of the Locker Room. So the snap counts for the Texans, we have right here. You can see this. So Kalen Bullock played 100%, as did C.J. Gardner-Johnson, as did Azeez Al-Shire, and as did Kamari Lassiter. Henry To'oTo'o played 95%. Petrie played 92%. And then you go down the list and you look at the bottom, and you have Jalen Smith only playing 8%, 5 snaps. Christian Harris playing 5 snaps, and EJ Speed playing 3 snaps. And I just don't know if that's in the best interest of the Texans when you're playing a receiver like Puka Nacua. I don't know if that's in the best interest. And I don't even know that Jalen Petrie covers Puka Nacua better than Christian Harris or EJ Speed can. I don't know that there's that much of a difference when it comes to the coverage. But maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but I don't know that there's much of a difference. Nick Caley needs to watch Kevin O'Connell, is what Evan says. Kevin O'Connell's a very smart coach. Like the end of that game, we kind of saw just what good in-game management looks like. And clearly, Kevin O'Connell knows what the hell he's doing. He has a really firm grasp of what in the world that he's doing and what's going on. And I think I haven't seen any like in-game management blunders from D'Amico Ryans, but Kevin O'Connell knows what he's doing. Here's my question about the Texans and the AFC South. And Jacksonville and the Colts, they started out with wins, and they sit atop the division early on. There's a couple of things I want to get into here, but before we do that, let's get into the biggest moron perhaps in the league, and that is Brian Callahan over there in Tennessee. So Brian Callahan had a situation where he could have challenged a catch where the guy's elbow came down. Anyone that watches football religiously or even not religiously, most people know that when the elbow comes down, it's a catch. One knee equals 2 feet. Elbow comes down, same treatment as a knee. Most of us know that. Well, Brian Callahan didn't challenge the play. And Paul Kaharski, kind of their John McClain, but way snappier. He asked him about it, and look what the head coach of an NFL team said after the game.
Consider a challenge on the aisle matter play where they moved out of bounds on the sideline, and it looked like his elbow hit inbounds first.
Yeah, you got to get a foot inbounds too, which we didn't have a clean look at whether his foot was down as well. An elbow doesn't equal 2 feet, so his foot would have had to come down as well. We didn't have a clean look, so the call from upstairs was that it wasn't worth challenging.
All right, well, that's wrong, buddy.
Challenge on the aisle matter play.
That would be incorrect, and that is an NFL head coach. And here's where the snappiness kind of continued with Kaharski. And this is what's wrong with a lot of these coaches. They don't respect the intelligence of some media types, and sometimes they end up making fools of themselves. But here was another back and forth that I thought was funny. And Paul Kaharski is going to end this guy, by the way. This is not going to end well for Callahan. But here's more from him after he already made enough of an ass of himself. Maybe it was before, who knows? It was just a bunch of assery by an NFL head coach who doesn't know rules.
The horizontal passing qualify as aggressive there. What did you see that showed you that throwing the ball sideways was going to get them on the ball?
Did you have the play calls, Paul? Did you see him?
No,
Okay.
What were you expecting out of it?
Okay, so now he's saying, did you have the play calls, all that? Okay. So he has the press conference, Callahan, and then he goes up there and then obviously Titans fans are going crazy. Like, could you imagine if DeMeco Ryans didn't challenge a Nico Collins catch and his elbow dropped and DeMeco Ryans came out there and said, hey, you got to get a foot down too. You imagine how much, like, what would I do? y'all know how I am. Like, what would I do? What would me and Stoots do in the morning leading up to the DeMeco Ryans press conference? I mean, we would sit there and we would say, this guy's a moron. This guy's an absolute moron. Well, here was how he followed it up today, explaining a rule that obviously he didn't know, despite the fact he's the son of a former NFL head coach and is a current head coach in the NFL. Here's his explanation for what the hell he was thinking and why the hell he doesn't know that.
Conversation about the play with Alec and challenging the play and what I said after the game. And look, ultimately, my interpretation of the rule was wrong. I'll own it. We should have challenged the play, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. Is I'll own the mistake. Should have challenged it, and that's where it stands. So other than that, you guys can go ahead.
With that being said, obviously there are other people who may have been able to tell you, hey, go ahead and challenge that.
That process and how those things get relayed, I'll keep those in house. But I'm the head coach of the football team, and my job is to make those decisions. And I didn't do a good enough job in that moment. I should have challenged it, and it probably would have resulted in a potential explosive play. So should have challenged the play.
But your interpretation of it being incorrect, your interpretation of Rob in your ear is also incorrect. He's there to correct you or counsel you, and he's also
Kaharski's the man.
not getting it right in the moment, correct?
Again, I should have challenged play, and the communication and how those things happened are all part of the process that we got to do a better job of overall. But I'm in charge of that, and I didn't do a good enough job there. So again, should have challenged the play.
All right, so there you go. So, and we're getting the POV of Paul Kaharski because I think it's hilarious. I'm so amused by this. So Kaharski asks him that question, kind of calls him out. The coach looks foolish after trying to make Paul Kaharski look silly. And then after saying that they didn't understand the rule, and this is where Kaharski calls him out, he now says that he misspoke after the game. Oh, so now he knows the rule. Okay,
At
so
that moment, yeah, I think at the end of the game, I was worried about
the guy admits this buffoon gets the rule wrong, admits that he got the rule wrong, and then later on says that he misspoke. This is not going to end well. This guy will not be the coach in Tennessee past this year. These are the types of things that get you fired. These are the types of things that get you fired, and the Tennessee Titans most likely will be looking for a new head coach after this season. You don't come back from that. You don't come back from not knowing a rule that I would say at the very least the majority of your fan base knows, and then owning it and then not owning it. You don't come back from that, especially when you don't have a good football team and you really weren't that good of a coach to begin with. So I think the Texans, and we'll get to this as we talk about where the Texans sit. I think the Texans, there's two good coaches in this division, in DeMeco Ryans and Shane Steichen. There's one coach who's intriguing, and Liam Cohen, and there's one coach who's an absolute dope and an absolute buffoon and a total moron. And that's the guy in Tennessee. And this is a pathetic display by him. With that said, let's get to the teams that might actually be threats to the Texans. But Paul Kaharski is going to hunt this guy. This guy's done. And he's made his own bed. He's going to have to lie in it. It's an absolute disaster in Tennessee, and this guy stinks. He's terrible. On the super chat, team player
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
says Chubb was looking similar to his past in the last drive, and then they put in Dare. Yeah, he looked a little bit gassed, but it was the 2-minute warning, and I don't. The Agumbawale thing is something that I haven't gotten for a while. I get how he hangs around, but it's getting a little bit ridiculous. Like Frank Ross cried on Thursday, like cried when talking about him. Like let's chill out a little bit. I mean, I understand that you like the guy, but we're crying about Dare Agumbawale being a captain, and you trade up and get Woody Marks, and then you don't trust him to go in there instead of Dare Agumbawale. Like, did training camp even matter? The most frustrating thing for me when it comes to the Texans and what happened on Sunday, because I don't get as frustrated with the offensive line because we know they stink. Like, I don't expect much from this offensive line. Quite frankly, that the expectations might have actually been met, the realistic expectations, and that's not good. That's not good. It's just reality. But the thing that bothers me is I thought DeMeco Ryans was one of those coaches that was willing to trust rookies. And I thought he was willing to let them go out there and do their thing and figure stuff out. We saw it with CJ and Will, probably pretty easy to do. That same year, we saw it with Tank Dell. He was having a good rookie season. Last year, we saw Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock. They did their thing. And then this year, yeah, Ariante Ursary was out there. You didn't really have a choice. What are you going to do? Throw Blake Fisher out there? But at two positions that were significant needs heading into the draft, guys play very little, and instead you struggle at the positions that they would have played. Put Jalen Smith at corner, put Kamari Lassiter on the inside to perhaps guard Puka Nacua. Probably better than Jalen Petrie, probably a better option. Let Woody Marks catch the ball out of the backfield, which is what he does best, which is why he's here, instead of Dare Agumbawale. And this felt very Bill O'Brien-like by DeMeco Ryans. And I know anytime a coach does something bad around here, it's always like, well, B.O.B., 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 B.O.B. It's just how we look at Bill. Even though it wasn't all horse bleep, as B.O.B. would say. But that's what's frustrating to me. Is these rookies are out there. They're running with the twos the whole time, and then all of a sudden, hey, we really got to trust Dare Ogunbowale. And I think this is good to have this as like one of the most memorable moments of the Dare Ogunbowale experience, because it kind of puts in perspective what he should be. And the over romanticized Tampa Bay thing where he kicks the field goal that drunk frat bros kick every Saturday on College game day, like let's forget that. He doesn't need to be out there on the field on offense in that situation. Just doesn't need to happen. I mean, I'm serious. This isn't new. This isn't a new conversation. This isn't an overreaction. This is a conversation we've been having for a long time. And the Petrie coverage thing as well, like the 90% of the snaps, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like you traded up for this corner and you acted like you just won the Super Bowl when y'all drafted him. Y'all talked about how much you liked him. And then Jalen Petrie's out there. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know the defense is still a really, really good defense. Like the thoughts about the defense haven't changed, but when it comes to winning games, like they're gonna have to carry the load. Is that ideal? No. Is that the prime example of complementary football? No. But that's what they're gonna have to do. And you trade up for these rookies, and then all of a sudden you're playing guys that we've seen these flaws in the past. Part of the reason that you probably got these guys because of the flaws in the past. Although I don't know what the deal is with Petrie. I really don't. And I'm intrigued to see how they're going to handle that when they take on Tampa Bay next Monday. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see. HDAV Traveler, Onzi Soup. He says 1 knee equals 2 feet. Has been known since the Madden and Summerall days. Missed those guys calling games. Yeah, they were the goats. The turducken. Oh wait, yeah, that was a hell of a duo. The goats to me, best duo ever. Forever Broker Records. I want to ask this. I'm not picking on you, and I would love for you to explain this in the comments. And I don't even know what the tone is. But I just want to ask this because I always get fascinated by this. And if y'all know me, I'm very anti-generalization. I don't like generalizations in any walk of life. The serious walks of life, the not so serious walks of life, I don't like generalizations. I like individualism, and I do not like generalizations. I try to avoid those. It actually keeps my mind pretty clear in multiple cases. Like you don't generalize one group. So I want to ask this. From Forever Broker Records, I want you to explain, if you don't mind. He says, our fan base has changed. I want the fan base that was here during our losing seasons. At least the fans were real fans back then. What is a real fan? Like, what does a real fan mean? What does that mean? Because I'm confused. Because I didn't know there was like a certain way to be a real fan. Like what is a real fan? Put that in the chat and I'll pull it back up if you don't mind explaining it. I don't think you should mind. It's not, I'm not putting you on the spot, but what does a real fan mean? Explain that to me. Evan on the Soup says maybe we should go buy an O-line or draft one. Yeah, I would probably think O-line, tight end, running back. Probably going to be areas they look at in the draft. We're not going draft yet, are we? We're still in season. It hasn't really gotten to that point yet. Samson, he has a real fan opinion. Shout out to Samson. He says, real fans are invested and ready to call it out when you see it on Sunday. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you can make a case. Like, the two examples of fan that I use here, just during my time covering this class, 10 plus years, I I look at it as all versions are great. Like the fans that were still there every day during the Easterby and BOB dark days and the Coley and Lovie Smith, salute to y'all. That's great. It's awesome that y'all are there. But the fans that didn't show up probably had a bigger impact. You can make a case. Because if everyone had shown up and the stadium would have been full, then there's a chance Jack Easterby might still be here. We were still criticizing him like crazy. And I would never sacrifice my dignity to do that. But the fans that didn't show up actually had an impact. Like, do you think that fans on the East Coast, like crazy fans that criticize their team, do you think they're not real fans? I think that's good accountability. So I don't know, like this back in the day, they were real fans type of stuff. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm not trying to be trite. I'm not trying to be an asshole or anything. I've always been confused by what a real fan is. Because I've seen people who say, yeah, you know, a real fan, like the real fans, oh, I'm standing up. Like I've seen fans defend the DeAndre Hopkins trade, like in the moment. I've seen fans defend David Johnson when he was here. It's like, okay, good for you, but does someone who criticizes the DeAndre Hopkins trade, does that make them not a fan? I think it's a weird thing to carry the flag and say what a real fan is or isn't in a sport in which there's maybe billions of fans and they all do it a different way. I don't understand it. I think it's cool that you feel comfortable enough and important enough to be able to, I'm going on a tangent, but to say what a real fan is, I've never understood what a real fan is. You're not a true fan, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Don't get it. Johnny Lambo, I promise the direction didn't go here. I promise we'll get to, I didn't mean for it to go in this direction. We'll get to what the Jags and Colts did over the weekend. Johnny Lambo says a real fan put themselves through the punishment at the end of the game instead of turning it off, all to watch Landman punch the ball out at the end of the game. Yeah, so you watch the game. See, that's a good description there. A good description. Real fans keep it real. Yeah, I don't see any problem with criticizing the players in the team. That's the whole thing. And the other thing about this is what needs to be understood is a lot of fans that get criticized for being critical, y'all are going to be here probably longer than most of the players. Like that's just a fact. So I find it like weird. This is like a specific, like the meat writing is just kind of weird because the goalpost always moves on that. Like, oh, you're defending Laramie Tunsil, and then as soon as he gets traded, he's the biggest loser in the world. Like, how are you standing on your own 2 feet doing that? And that's why me and Stutes take so much pride in this. It's the journalistic background, the fact that there's a responsibility to the fans, and there's a responsibility to just like being somewhat professional and being critical and explaining what you think. And when you're wrong, then at least it came from a place of gathering information and stuff. But it's pretty wild when there's like a fight to the death for Deshaun Watson whenever he gets accused. And then as soon as he leaves and he goes to the Browns, you're like calling him all kinds of names. I think that's a little bit weird to me. That's a gang mentality. That's a little bit crazy. But you know what the corniest thing that people say is? And this is it, I promise. This is like, you know how when someone says like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, blah, 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 multiple times. It's like, okay, I didn't know where that was coming from. You really telegraphed that. The worst now is fan is short for fanatic. Fan is short for fanatic. Fuck does that mean? Like what does that even mean? Fan is short for fanatic, so blah, blah, blah. You hear that all the time now. I think Florio said it the other day. It's so weird. Like, okay, fan is short for fanatic. I've never really thought of it that way. I've just thought of fan. Like I've never like it's not short for it might be short for fanatic based on the thing, but nobody thinks of it that way. They always think they're saying, "Oh, you see those fans fighting? Well, fans short for fanatic. Sports fans are crazy." No, I never even knew that. Like I never thought I was shortening it. It was always fan. Oh, you're a fan of who? Oh, you like them? Nah, I'm a Texans fan. Ah, hell no, they suck. Like it's like that is not like fan is short for fanatic. Okay, really? Like I guess that's the root of it, but no one ever thinks that. And they say this like it's like some sort of like wisdom type thing. All right, let's get off the soapbox.
High grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
It's the post week 1 outlook here. So how threatened will the Texans be in the AFC South? I have that question. How threatened will the Texans be in the AFC South? Let's hear from Liam Cohen, new coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They started out 1-0. They traded Tank Bigsby today. Travis Etienne, 140 yards rushing the other day. They did play the Carolina Panthers, who are pretty bad. Here is what Liam Cohen had to say after.
I think we try to get them a touch on the first or second drive of the game. First play of the game, right? We don't convert it.
He's talking about Brian Thomas Jr.
Throw him a screen, low, doesn't come down with it. And then the flow of the game, we missed him on a in-breaker, which he had a lot of room to run. Missed him on a corner route where he was fairly open. And then missed, had the one on the out of bounds. So you're talking about that's 5 catches right there that gets him into the flow of it. I think we try to get him a touch on the first or second drive of the game. First play of the game, right? We don't convert it. Throw him a screen, low.
Dude. He's basically calling out his quarterback. This is a good coach, man. What did D'Amico Ryan say yesterday when he was asked about CJ Stroud? He played nice. D'Amico Ryan said he played nice, talking about CJ Stroud's performance. They won a football game by 2 touchdowns. And Liam Cohen goes up there and says, yeah, Trevor Lawrence missed him 5 times. Missed him on a touchdown. He's going in depth right after, not even after watching the tape, right after. Missed him on a screen, missed him on the edge. Thank you for the explanation, by the way. My fantasy team appreciates you for explaining that. This guy might be a problem. Now, it is going to go down to the quarterback, but the fact that he's out there and he's willing to say that, it kind of tells you that he kind of knows what the hell he's doing and he has a pretty good grasp of offense. I'm a little bit worried about that guy. I think the Jags are a decent threat. A decent threat to the Texans. Do I still think the Texans are the better football team? Yeah. I still think they have the better quarterback. But their coach comes out and he says, Trevor Lawrence missed. Why was Brian Thomas not productive today? Why did he only have 1 catch for 11 yards? Liam Cohen says, well, let's go play by play and describe why and how that went down. What does D'Amico Ryan say? Yeah, CJ Stroud played nice. Last year, what did he say about Kenyon Green? I don't understand. This was kind of Bill Callahan-ish, Brian Callahan. But D'Amico Ryan, I don't understand the narrative that Kenyon Green's not playing good. What? These coaches aren't always smarter than the fans, like on some things. And sometimes they think the fans are dumber than them. Some of these coaches. Almost generalized. Almost broke my own rule. I'm talking about Callahan and D'Amico in this specific. But I'm telling you, man, this Cohen guy, we got to keep a close eye on him because he might know what the F he's doing. Trevor Lawrence is getting coached. That's the guy who got Baker Mayfield ready in a week to win a game with McVay. He was in charge of that. So he's someone to keep an eye on. And I think the Jags are better. Then we got the Colts. And this one's kind of tough because the Dolphins are trash. And they're a disaster. They're a dumpster fire. But the Colts get the win 33-8. And immediately the question is, Well, is Daniel Jones going to be enough for the Colts to be for real? And I understand the skepticism about Daniel Jones. Like, Daniel Jones is not a elite quarterback. Like, nobody thinks that. But here's my perspective for Daniel Jones, and I want to give some perspective on Shane Steichen too. As we answer the question, how threatened will the Texans be in the AFC South? Shout out to everyone joining the chat. Be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe to the Texans Collective. We're one episode in. I'm very proud. However, here's what happened today with my mic. And it's actually way too advanced. Like, this is like advanced technology gone wrong. I'm just going to explain this. And we ended up fixing it 20 minutes in. So this Friday we'll be at Spanky's, in case you didn't know. And I have something called a Rodecaster 2 Pro, and I have a Rodecaster Mini. So I'll show you this. This is getting real nerdy here. But you know what? Why the hell not? So the Rodecaster 2, the big ass one, is right here. It's right there. And the Mini is right here. So this is a Rodecaster Mini. This is what all the drops come out. Everybody's favorite drops come out of the Rodecaster.
Damn it, Bobby.
Right there. Boom. Damn it, Bobby. We didn't see much from him. So the Rodecaster Mini is right here. And these things have headphones, and they hold the mics, and they hold the plugs. So when we go on remotes, we want to have multiple mics. That's the goal. The goal is to have multiple mics when we go on remote. And I have a plug. It's an XLR plug here. What I'm using right now, an XLR plug. And this is the XLR plug. I had one that I'd used for a while, but it's like, and I've used it since the very beginning, but it's like 20 feet long. So like, we can go into the crowd at Spanky's, but I wanted to use this one and upgrade it. And apparently, even if you're offline, so after I streamed this morning and I did the Cade Stover and I was getting ready for Collective, I just switched the XLR. And apparently, I guess you got to shut down the Rodecaster 2 Pro. I didn't think that would be the case. It seems kind of weird, but that's what happened. TMI, I know. But, you know, back to the Rodecaster Pro.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But the Daniel Jones perspective and the Shane Steichen perspective, that's what I want to focus on here. Because I think the Jags are a threat. I think Liam Cohen, when you listen to how he just spoke, he's a problem. But here's the Daniel Jones perspective that I think we need to at least acknowledge. Yes, he's not a franchise quarterback. Yes, he's not great. But the Colts 2 years ago with Shane Steichen as a head coach, they were a drop pass away from winning the AFC South with Gardner Minshew as the starting quarterback. And instead of talking about, you know, is Daniel Jones elite? The question is he better than Gardner Minshew? And I think the answer is yes, probably so. So that might be what all he needs to be. And here's the other thing about it when it comes to the Colts. Here's the other thing. And this stat might blow your mind because Shane Steichen has had a crappy quarterback situation. Colts quarterback situation has been crappy since Andrew Luck retired. But despite the fact that he's had Anthony Richardson, Gardner Minshew, and then Anthony Richardson last year, and whatever the hell else they've been dealing with, despite the fact that he had that, Shane Steichen and the Colts in the regular season They've won 2 less games than the Texans. They've won 2 less games. They've won 19. The Texans have won 20 in the regular season. DeMeco Ryans and the Texans with C.J. Stroud, the elite defense, in 35 games. They've won 20 games, and the Colts have won 18 with their quarterback situation. And they were a drop pass away from winning the division. So I probably wouldn't frown too much upon the Indianapolis Colts when talking about the Houston Texans, because it really hasn't been that far off. And the quality of quarterback is massive. And they've still been able to win games. Somehow, sometimes you just don't have a quarterback and you have to make do. And they've won 2 less games than the Texans. It's kind of astonishing to see that. But I think Shane Steichen's a good coach, and I'm very intrigued by this Cohen fella. Very intrigued by this Cohen fella. Big time. And here's the other question that I have is, how far away does elite look? We already knew where the Texans were trying to get. The Texans were trying to get to the elite status. And I don't think they're any further away today than they were before yesterday. And I think their defense, when December, January hit, I think the defense can compete at the highest level and keep them in some ball games. I do believe that. But they're further away from Buffalo, Baltimore. I guess we can say the Chiefs. I don't know. The Chiefs kind of look beatable. They're kind of vulnerable right now. But the creme de la creme of the AFC, the Buffaloes and the Baltimores, like what we saw Sunday night, the Texans are way further away from that than Indianapolis and Jacksonville are to them. Would you agree? Because I think that's the reality of where they're at right now. This might be a little bit of a battle for the division. It might be a little bit tougher than many anticipated. And I think if you ask Baltimore or you ask Buffalo what they think of the Texans, I think it's probably, even though Buffalo lost to the Texans last year, I think it's probably a little bit of an eye roll when it comes to them reaching their goals. I don't think they look at the Texans as some sort of threat for them. I think Indianapolis and Jacksonville, they're threats. Maybe that's a little bit of a overreaction. I don't think so. I think that's reality. And the other team that I think needs to be looked at, Denver took care of business against Tennessee. The Steelers and Jets, those are potential divisional round or wild card opponents if the Texans make the playoffs. I think the Jets had a decent showing. The offense looked a lot better than some anticipated, and Justin Fields showed some life. So I think both of those teams, Pittsburgh and the Jets, and that was probably the case. You probably weren't saying that about the Jets before this week, but I think both of those are potential playoff opponents. Cincinnati, they kind of are what they are. They always struggle with Cleveland, and Joe Burrow said it the other day. They didn't win that game last year, so they consider that progress. But the other team that you kind of need to look at is the Chargers. And you're not going to be able to judge the Chargers in the regular season, but what they did the other day, I think, is at least worth making note of. Is this the year where Justin Herbert takes it up to another level? Now, maybe that was last year and the Texans ended up figuring stuff out, but it is a year-to-year league, which is kind of the Bill O'Brien coach cliche. But do the Chargers kind of continue to elevate their status, and next time that them and the Texans, if they're on that same stage, and they'll play this year in the regular season, have the Chargers taken the next step, or are the Chargers going to be able to do the same? That's that's something to watch. But the AFC South is absolutely going to be much more of a battle, and you have a couple of really good coaches. Now, what do the Texans need to do to be able to elevate themselves and take that next step? I think there's a couple of things to keep an eye on. And the first one is, how are opposing defensive coordinators going to attack them? Is the Nico Collins thing, is this just the beginning of a new philosophy, aka the tan theory, take away Nico strategy that defensive coaches could be implementing? You got to get him the ball in the quick game, and that's an option. But you do I do kind of wonder if taking away Nico Collins is going to be something that opposing teams try to do, especially if the Texans aren't going to show a pulse at wide receiver outside of Nico Collins. So I don't know if this is some sort of blueprint. Really haven't heard the breakdown of how the Rams attacked him. Did hear CJ say that they kind of put a robber over the top, and we'll react to what CJ Stroud had to say as promised today after the game. But I do wonder if this is going to be a thing. The other thing is, I wonder if DeMeco is about to overstep on offense, because DeMeco Ryan said that he didn't think they ran the ball enough or whatever. And I hope that that's not the case. But whenever I hear a coach criticizing the game plan and all that, especially a defensive coach, and we start getting hearing about run, there's always like at least a warning sign that maybe he's going to overstep on offense. And I hope that's not the case for DeMeco. I hope he lets Nick Caley do his thing. And I hope that Nick Caley is able to implement Woody Marks and some sort of quick game. I don't really have specific complaints about Nick Caley outside of that. Got to implement the quick game. Don't need to have Dare Gumbawale out there in those types of situations. But like, as far as specific complaints, I don't want to be baseball guy and say it's early, but it is early. I mean, it's very early. And how an offensive coordinator adjusts is one of the big tests that one of the 5 tests that we threw out when talking about Nick Caley. So we'll see how he adjusts. I think this is going to be one of the big tests. We'll see whether he passes it next Monday. Let's hear from CJ Stroud, as promised. Yesterday on the post-game show, I said we'd go through this. Let's hear what CJ had to say. There were a couple of headlines. Let's try to get some context and watch and listen to what he actually said instead of just reacting to a couple quotes. Here's CJ Stroud after the L.
Just play shell, a lot of Tampa 2, a lot of disguise.
So he's saying they stopped Nico Collins by just playing shell.
Cover 2, and played over the top. Yeah, so they did a good job of that. But I feel like we were executing in ways, but just some of those negative plays that we got to just fix. But I thought we moved the ball pretty well, but just got to just put it in the end zone or try to create an explosive somehow. But yeah, we'll be seeing that all year, so we got to get used to it.
CJ, I know that you all have the next man up mentality, but what is the difference from a quarterback's perspective when you're so used to playing with one set of?
This is about the offensive line shuffle, kind of trying giving him an excuse to for the offensive line shuffle. This seems like kind of a tee up.
Offensive linemen and picked up their tendencies. They know your tendencies, and then all of that gets shuffled within a matter of days.
Yeah, it's not easy, It's something that just, what you're gonna complain about, or you just, or you're gonna lay down, or you're gonna go play. So for me, I just try to compete, as best I can, and show those guys that I don't care who's in there. Like, I trust in you, and by the way I play, I try to play as hard as I can, to show that I'm there for them, and also vocally as well. So, but yeah, even our receiver a little bit. We got some guys, hopefully coming back, hopefully soon. So, yeah, it's not always easy, but that's why I'm in the position.
Captain Kirk has arrived. I repeat, Captain Kirk has arrived.
I think I've, tried to do my best at that.
Having the experience that you have, and obviously you come up with the results that you want today, but what do you take from this game to be able to learn from it?
What do you take from this game?
Yeah, I take just negative plays. I think it's kind of obvious. You know, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot consistently and expect to win. And that starts with me, you know, with a lot of different things. I got to get rid of the ball better and, you know, use my legs maybe a little more. But, yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of hope still. We did a lot of good things. You know, it's a really good defense, a really good team. But I definitely think we could have won. But just you can shoulda, woulda, coulda all day. We didn't deserve to win that game because we didn't do the right things. So when you come out in NFL lollygagging and you know not going through the motions, that kind of happens. So I think we'll be all right. But I think it's a good wake up call for us.
CJ, you talk about using the legs. You did that today. And you also seem like you made a few checkdowns, use different players. Something you're feeling more comfortable with?
Yeah, definitely. I try to use my athleticism as best I can, and you know, I tell those guys if you're open, you'll get the ball. So those guys, I think, did a good job, and you know, getting separation in routes. But you know, I think there's a lot of growing to do still there.
Why do you feel like you mentioned that you feel like it was a wake up call? Why do you feel like today's outing was kind of a wake up call for you guys?
I just think the way we practiced this week, I think we could have practiced better. I think, you know, I love the confidence we had, but there's I don't know, I always say there's like a type of mindset is like, did I do enough? And I think that's a healthy way to be because then you'll probably do more. So I just, for me, you know, preparing, I got to do a better job. And I also got to hold my guys accountable, you know, for that one exotic, and it's the first game of the year. We got a lot of exotic looks we did not expect. They did too, but they made the play. So you can come with a million excuses. We got to just be better.
On the same lines, what in particular, you were saying you were optimistic. What in particular were the things that give you optimism that this isn't potentially a long-term problem that you can get it back?
Yeah, I thought the quick pass game was efficient. Thought the run game was efficient in ways. There's a lot of things that I think we didn't get to because of the negative play. So Nick kind of had his hands tied around his back. You know, it's hard to operate in 2nd and 20 and, you know, those type of systems. And, you know, that's something that, sadly, we've gotten used to, and we got to fix that here. We can't expect to win close games like that. So, and we got to just make plays. You know, I think they made more plays than us. We got to come down with you know, just better urgency, I think.
CJ, you had mentioned that you got coming to the line now. You got a lot more freedom to do. Was there enough situation where you sort of like the check me, and when you got to the line, it was just a situation that everything just didn't pan out enough? What you felt like that you could have had enough check me to make some changes at the line when they presented a different front than what you was expecting?
We did everything we thought we were going to do. Yeah, so yeah, it was pretty on at least the passing game.
Asking about checkdowns.
They had the fronts we thought they were going to have. I did it correctly. I think we missed. I missed one or two, and those are the points in the game where, you know. So I got to do a better job of being in control up there and helping those guys out to get the IDs correct. So yeah, but other than that, I thought we did a decent job at it. I missed about two. So, but I think like then again, and I'm not trying to come with excuses, but it's our first game, first time in the system. We'll be better, and I trust in my guys that we'll be all right.
How much, I mean, obviously you want to get a win today, but how much does it help to have this game now done and you can see real game that counts, kind of really to evaluate where you guys are and the tweaks that you got to make?
I think it's good. You know, it's early. You know, there's a bunch of upside I think we could possibly have. I always try to think positively and give ourselves a little grace, but also there's some urgency and there's some things we need to fix. So I know the conversations will be hard and, you know, we'll be hard on each other, but I think it's a good thing. You know, it's, you know, where friction is I think that's love. So I want to see all my teammates do well. And I think, you know, when there's friction in that, I think sometimes it's a good thing just in a positive way. So.
One year and then DJ Jonathan. Being a SoCal kid was like being back here playing in front of
SoCal thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There we go. That's CJ. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. We'll see. I do think that the one talking point that was a relevant talking point, but I didn't necessarily look at it as 100% positive, was him having more control at the line of scrimmage. And maybe it ends up being a good thing, but it was almost talked about like, oh, well, thank God he gets to go do what he wants to do and what he needs to do. We'll see if that's a good thing or not. And maybe it takes some stuff getting used to, but the assumption that that's a good thing, I think that's a dangerous assumption to make. Very dangerous assumption. Something that's not dangerous though. Turf. Texans turf. I was a customer before. I started partnering with them, but now I'm just a happy guy that is spreading the word. TexansTurf.com. Dan and his team, they do their thing. I got it in my backyard. They've done some big baller pads. They've done mine, and they're the most fair. They don't give you that stupid minimum that others do. They have the financing, and they get it done. Putting greens, play areas, all that. My daughter loves it. She can go outside and play without getting eaten up by insects. My dog loves it. I love it. It's easier to clean. It's very easy to maintain. The yard looks great. I find myself watering it. I rake it. I do all the stuff that you do with grass, but it's not as much of a pain. If you have a beautiful grass yard, awesome. But if you want to upgrade, you want to get rid of the insects, the mud, all that, Texans turf, I promise you they're the best. I'm putting my hand to God that Dan and his team are the best. I shopped at 6 or 7 before I ended up going with them. And then I was like, hey, oh, you listen to the radio? Okay, well, you should work with the radio station. Then I realized, hey, radio station endorsement's not really hitting. Let's go digital. And now Dan is with me, and hopefully he can be with you. TexansTurf.com. You will not regret it. I promise. I put my name on that. And the entire experience of turf, I absolutely love. All right, so I got 5 thoughts to conclude. I am a fan of the green. That is a fact. I got 5 thoughts to conclude the week 1 outlook. Some of y'all might be upset with me when you go to sleep tonight. It's okay. You'll be able to dog cuss me at 4 p.m. tomorrow on SNL. D'Amico Ryans, by the way, going to speak relatively early. It's going to be early media availability tomorrow, so we should hear from D'Amico. They've been late. Sometimes they're 45 minutes late. Sometimes they're 15. Sometimes they're 30. If they get to fly to Los Angeles, they're usually early. So it doesn't matter. They're not flying to Los Angeles tomorrow, so maybe they'll be late. Maybe they'll be on time. Who knows? We just kind of it's kind of a grab bag with the Texans whenever it comes to when they're going to be there or whatever. But the Houston, the listed availability is 10:15. 10:15 open locker room, and then D'Amico Ryans at noon. We'll see. But we will hear from him, and you will hear from us at 4 p.m. Thought 1 on this post week 1, before we go on to Tampa Bay, is the Texans are closer to Indy and Jacksonville than they are Buffalo and Baltimore. I thought this before. I think this even more so now. And maybe I'm just a sucker for a good old press conference with my God, Liam Cohen. Continue to be intrigued by him. Still the most talented football team. But they are way closer to Jacksonville and Indy than they are Baltimore and Buffalo. And I don't even think that's particularly close. Don't even think that's a hot take. I'll let y'all decide that. Thought 2. We got to watch Nico and Petrie moving forward. How teams guard Nico and how Petrie guards others. Those are 2 things that are very much going to impact how far this team can go. Do they hide Petrie? Do they take him off the field a little bit more? Do we see more 3 linebacker sets, or can they just not quit him? Or are they going to be able to hide him? Who knows? But Petrie and Nico watch. We need to keep a very close eye on number 12 and number 5. Maybe more of one, less of another. That's my personal preference. Thought 3. Friday night football with SNL. We will be at Spanky's Friday nights. Friday night, we want you there. Bel Air location, Sharpstown, Bel Air Boulevard. We got gifts. We got prizes. We got the broadcast. We want to hang out with you. John McClain's going to be there. We want to chill. So come through, hang out. We got you covered. Also, subscribe to the collective. Thought 4. Nick Caley might need some Viagra. Nick might need some Viagra. Nick. I'm not trying to get in my man's sex life. I'm not trying to get in Nick Caley's sex life, but he might need some Viagra because he needs to free Woody. Viagra's been known to free Woody. Nick Caley needs to free Woody. Woody Marks. I don't know what in the hell is going on. I thought maybe they were just lying. I thought maybe they were just lying on the depth chart. But I'll be damned. They really treated him like a fourth stringer. And that's where we're at. That's what we saw. So pop that Viagra and free Woody, Nick Caley. Let's see what it looks like. Maybe it's not great. It's got to be better than what we saw on Sunday. And thought 5 on to Monday night. We're officially over the Rams. It is on to Tampa Bay, Monday Night Football. What will the stands look like at that early 6 a.m.? Baker Mayfield versus D'Amico Ryans. They got a little bit of history. Last time Tampa Bay was here, it was a hell of a game. This is going to be an absolute banger Monday night and early Monday night. Post game is probably going to be about 10:30 with that format by the time I get out of the locker room, but who knows? So those of you that are accustomed to the usual game day schedule, tomorrow is basically a Monday. So they push everything back. Usually they're off on Tuesday. They're going to be off on Wednesday. And then they're just going to take the practice schedule up. So tomorrow is the D'Amico availability that you would normally have on Monday. And then Wednesday, they're going to be off when they'd normally be off on Tuesday. Try to follow along. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to always remember when it comes to this Texans stuff, whether it's here, whether it's SNL, whether it's the Texans Collective, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. This has been a lot of crap the last few days for me. I've been doing a hell of a lot. I need a nap, and I am going to try to get at least a 9-hour nap, 10-hour nap, and then I'll be right back at it. Texans media availability, SNL, locker room stream. We got you covered. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. See you at Spanky's on Friday, and see you on these digital streets. Peace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localized. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localized every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days.